I've wanted to elaborate on a video like this for a long time, and I've mentioned it in several videos, and that is owning too many cars, too many Fox bodies, Camaros, whatever it is that you have. Why it's important sometimes to not try to buy everything in the world, but to stick with what you got. And today we're going to talk about it. So as a kid, my parents had many cars, multiple cars. So my dad was constantly working on this car and that car. That becomes a struggle. But it's also very rewarding to walk out, of course, and see 3 or 4 cars that you own that maybe you've built yourself or you just take pride in. There's nothing wrong with that if you can afford it and you have the skill set to make these cars nice. For a lot of us, we don't have that skill set, right? We don't have the money to own multiple cars and keep them up, because part of the problem with owning so many different cars is maintenance. These cars don't fix themselves, so it requires someone to work on them. Now, owning one car definitely simplifies things, but you're stuck with one car. Let's say you want to go cruise on the weekends with your buddies, you want to go to some cars and coffee or whatever the case may be, but your car is more of a track car. So now what do? You think to yourself, man, it'd be so nice to have that second car. So we really need to try to find a balance. Recently, we've been working on Andrew's car a lot, and his car's come a long way. And it made me realize I have gotten kind of caught up in trying to own one of everything. I purchased Andrew's car. In case you guys don't know, Andrew's car used to be my car. I bought this car back in 2009 or 10. So I bought this thing from a buddy of mine. It was a pristine example of a Fox body. I mean, this thing looked awesome. I decided I wanted to repaint it though. So that's what we did. We painted this thing tuxedo black and gray at the bottom, put the red stripe back in it. The only thing that we ever did to it was put a B cam in it. It was a 5-speed, and I enjoyed this thing. I drove it all over the place. So I live in South Alabama, and we would drive this thing to Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana one time in the snow. Me and my buddy Joe Nate did. We took this thing all over Panama City Beach. It was my daily driver, and it was an absolute fun car. Like I said, this car was pretty much stock, right? It just had a B-cam, stock heads, had a set of roller rockers, and we put a system in it. It didn't even have gears in it. So this car was very versatile. Now, you couldn't go to the track necessarily and outrun everybody, and you weren't going to go out on a Friday night and win street races either. But it looked really good, it sounded good, it had a good system, and it did run good. Fast forward to now. Andrew has slowly made a couple of upgrades to this car to get it to where it is now. Now, you guys that are watching the channel, you know Andrew's car. This car's quick. You've never really seen it at the track, and it has been to the track, but it's a quick car. It's something that I feel like any of you guys could get in, drive, and enjoy it, and be like, hell yeah, this is a fun car. Now, before we talk about everything that Andrew's done to this car and why it is what it is today, I want to compare it to some of my other cars that I have. So we have the Calypso clone. That's a 347 stroker, turbo, carbureted, built rear end, TKX transmission, tubular K member, all the goodies, right? Pretty much everything that you would really want in a race car or kind of slash street car. I'll go ahead and tell you guys, it is not as fun to drive as Andrew's. It's not. Could it be? Absolutely. It's not really gone too far. There's just a couple of changes that do need to be made, but it absolutely could be a street car. The rear end is one thing that probably would need to be changed. Now, the Carbon Fox is a very fun car. It's not as purpose-built as Andrew's car is. It is a good-looking car. It drives and rides good, but it's an automatic, and it's just not set up for the engine that's in it. The power that this car makes, it is not set up. It's stock suspension, stock uppers and lowers, and all this type of stuff. It's a very fun car to drive. It just can't go do track duty as well. All right, over to the Retro Fox. This is probably the most well-rounded car that I still own. Now, the Retro Fox is stock bottom end SVE 170cc heads from LMR. You can't get those anymore. And a B cam, and it's supercharged. It's got an old Hartman intake on it, 373 gears, and that's about it. What does all this mean? What are you trying to say? What I'm trying to say is Andrew's car is probably the most well-rounded out of all the cars that we have. Even out of the ones that I just mentioned, all of them. It's probably the most well-rounded because he's taken his time with it. He's done his research, and he put the parts on the car that he wanted to put on it. He knew the effect that these parts would have and still be a streetable car, but also put in work on the street or at the track. Because of that, he's got a car that is very fun to drive. It has plenty of power on nitrous, looks phenomenal. He's got a couple different sets of wheels that this thing can pull double duty, right? He can drive it anywhere that he wants to drive it still and enjoy it. Now, the one drawback that Andrew's car has that a lot of you won't like is the faceplated transmission, but that's a very easy swap, and that's just a matter of your choice. What do you want to do? You could put a TKX in this car if you wanted to, and it would be even better in my opinion. Here's what I want y'all to remember. As fun as it is to go out and buy a new car because you've got that itch, why not build your car the way you want to build it? Maybe the car that you have right now can be the car that you want it to be without having to go buy something else. So I think that's something that we forget about. The car that we've either bought or built that sits in the driveway, that sits in the garage, it can be something else because a Fox body is nothing more than a blank canvas. If you have a hatchback Fox body, it can be anything other than a coupe. It can't be a coupe. But besides that, it can be a GT, it can be an LX, it can be a Celine. A lot of you probably don't even remember the old Steeda stuff, but it can be that. Now, coupe is going to be a coupe. There's no problem with that. That's cool as well. But there's still tons of variations that your car can be if it's a coupe. We've all seen coupes that look good, and we've all seen some that don't look so good, right? You can do all sorts of modifications to any of these Fox bodies, and that's the good thing about them. They're so versatile. I know I rambled a lot here. Here's what I want you guys to think about. Focus on your car, on one car. Having one car or maybe two lightens the load so much. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. When you got 4 or 5 cars or maybe more, oil changes become expensive. Spark plugs. You're going to have issues with either your transmission, your rear end, or your paint, or your engine, and you're going to have to fix them. So what happens most of the time is we don't have the time or the money to fix it properly, so it gets band-aided. Well, now you've got a car that's been band-aided to the point to where you don't really want to drive it anymore. So what you do is you push that car to the side and you go to the next one. You're like, oh, well, this one's not too bad. I'm going to drive it. Well, when it has problems, it's going to be the same story. Now, before you know it, your 3, 4, 5, 6 cars that you've got, none of them are good, fun cars to drive. That's what I want you to remember. It happens so easily. Sometimes it's best to have fewer cars and put your time and effort into it. There's a reason why I'm making this video. I love all of my cars that I have, and I probably wouldn't change much about the way that I did things. All these cars mean something to me, but seeing Andrew's car get built this way really made me want to do that. Want to take one car and focus on it. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I mean, I've commended him on it in every video almost. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, guys. I wish I could explain it to you better, but it's just a good feeling to have that one car. I know he's got 2 cars, but the other car is stock, so we're not doing anything with that. And that's a good option for you guys as well. You know, I didn't mention that, but having one car that's maybe bone stock that you can put a set of wheels on, maybe some exhaust, and then have the other car that you just go full ham on, right? That may be an option for you guys, but unless you have the skill set and unless you really know what you're doing, the best thing to do is probably not try to buy every damn car in the world and just chill out and enjoy what it is that you have. It's probably gonna take you a little while longer to do it that way because that instant gratification isn't there from going and buying a new car. Most people don't want to put the work in to fix a car up. They want instant gratification. They want to go buy something to make themselves feel better, drive it home, sit it in the driveway, wash it, clean it up, and stare at it all day, right? If you love it, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're unhappy with the situation that you're in, maybe rethink it all. I've seen all sides of this, guys, and there's something to be said about not having so many irons in the fire. I appreciate your time. Think about what I said. I'm going to wrap this one up. And as always, thanks for watching.